You know his voice and you trust his presence on your screens. But behind the calm delivery and sharp questions is a man whose journey from a Ghanaian home to the front lines of national news has been nothing short of remarkable. Today on Impact Stories, we meet the conscience of the Ghanaian people. Alfred Nene Akrofi Ocansey. I am Maame Ekua Otuokua Nyame, and this is his Impact Stories. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Impact Stories, and we are beginning our conversation with Alfred Ocansey. He's the voice, the presence, and the conscience behind some of Ghana's most compelling journalism. Alfred, thank you very much for making the time to talk to us.
Well, thank you. Thank you as well for having me on this program.
Great to have you. I'm interested. How does it feel to be on the other side of the seat?
That's the very, very good question. So it feels different.
It does.
Yes, because obviously I've been on the other side for most part of my life doing the interviews. Mm-hmm. So being the interviewee now, I can understand how my guests feel.
I'm happy you do. But on a serious note, I'm really honored to have you here.
Thank you.
We see you front a lot of conversations that have shaped national agenda. But who is Alfred?
Well, thank you very much. I'd say that Alfred is a young man, so 39 years old, turning 40, maybe in the next few months, if I'm still alive, because these days, you don't even know what's happening. Mm-hmm. So turning 40 soon. I consider myself the vanguard of the conscience of the people. And this is one description that I have adopted for myself over the last 17 years that I've been doing journalism. It's 17 years of reflection for me, because the 7th of September 2025, this year would be exactly 17 years I decided to pick up this calling. And for me, journalism is not a profession, it's a calling, because I see myself and the many other journalists that I look up to and I work with as the avenue to reflect the views, concerns, aspirations, and then also expectations of people. And so you would have citizens whom we like to call ordinary Ghanaians. I don't know who the extraordinary ones are, but the ordinary Ghanaians always reaching out to you because they believe that you can amplify their concerns. So in a nutshell, I see myself as just that ordinary Ghanaian committed to, reflecting the views and concerns of people and amplifying, the aspirations of people the best way possible. So, generally a very passionate person. I am immersed in my work so much, I'm now trying to pick up my social life, because I really don't have a social life. So that's one deficiency I'm trying to work on. So, that's me.
Run me through a typical day in Alfred Ocansey's life.
Typical day. So, on a day that I am having to help with morning show production, previously I used to host the morning show on 3FM 92.7. And so if I want to start from that perspective, I would get in by max 5:30 a.m. in the morning, do the morning show, and the days that I am not, I'll come in latest by 9:10 in the morning. But on a typical day, if I get in at 5:30, do the morning show with the team, and then we end at 10 a.m. From between 10 and 10:30, I would get into the newsroom. I am the head of the business desk. at TV3 and across the Media Journal platforms. I also double up as head of the political desk as well. So then I'm looking at so many other things. So I help with the team preparing stories and so on for the 12 o'clock news. And then after 12 o'clock, I take a rest for like 30 minutes. And mostly
so from 5:30 a.m., you only get to rest at 12 o'clock?
Maybe 1 p.m. actually.
Wow.
Yes. So that's just for 30 minutes. Go for lunch, take a breather, and then you get on to work again, because I have a radio program at 5 p.m. which I have to host as well, which is a news current affairs program called a Hot Edition. But then in between that, I would either be doing Zoom interviews or having to attend programs. What I do is that I like to go out for programs, because if you sit in the office as a journalist, you might miss out on a lot of things. For instance, there's an African Political Party Summit that is happening, and thankfully I get invitations to attend some of these programs. You attend to hear perspectives, opinions, views. That shapes your worldview. It shapes your knowledge base, because as a journalist, you are what you know. You cannot be a good journalist beyond what you know. So if you have a good repertoire of wisdom or knowledge and understanding about how things work in other countries, you can use that as a reference point in your interviews, in your analysis, which helps in enriching the kind of conversations that you have with people. But if your worldview is narrow and your examples are few, your references will be few, and that will not expand the scope of conversations that you have with people.
Very true. I find that your principle quite contradicts with that of a lot of young and upcoming journalists, because they would rather prefer to stay in the office, dress up, show up on the screens, read, so that people know that, yes, you are presenting. But then your philosophy or principles go way beyond that. Well,
yes, because you see, unfortunately, I am fearfully made. It's you, the ladies, who are wonderfully made. I keep saying that for we, the men on television, or the male presenters, you need to put in like 200% what the females would do. Here's what I mean by that, and don't get me wrong. You see, for most television stations, if you're a lady and you look good, maybe you're like 40% of, like you get a 40% chance of getting attention when you walk through the door. What happens after walking through the door with your niceness depends on what's in your head. If your brain is empty, your beauty would only give you attention. But journalism or media is evolving in Ghana. Gone were the days when, you would have people who are just pretty being put on television, even if they don't know much. But now, the Ghanaian media, in terms of expectations from the populace or our viewers, is growing such that people want to hear something beyond the beauty. They want you to be able to ask the right questions. They want you to be able to exhibit knowledge about what you're talking about. But if you're just a pretty doll on television, you would only be attracting viewers by how you look. But for we, the men, we not many of us are good looking. So you see, you have to read, learn more. So what you bring on the table is what you know, right? So that, in my mind, I keep saying this, that the person who is watching me, it's not as though the person doesn't know what I am saying. So why would I have the person watch me? You must give someone a reason to watch you, and the only way to do that is to tell the person what they don't know. That's what news is about. My definition of news is something new. If you're telling me what I already know, you're not informing me, you're not educating me, you're not entertaining me. That's the three pillars of journalism: education, information, and entertain. So those three, if you're not ticking the box as a journalist, then in my view, I think you should just go back and do some more work. And there's always room for improvement. We learn every day.
Very true.
I learn every day.
Very true.
You know, so yeah, that's what I work with.
These are some very strong principles.
Thank you.
I'd like to find out if journalism was something you wanted to do growing up, or it just found you along the way.
So, I'll answer this in 2 ways. First off, I wanted to be a journalist, but my father talked me out of it, and he had good reason.
Okay.
So, you know, I was born in La, here in Accra, in 1985, and my parents separated when I was just 2 years old. So my mom took me to Agona Konyako in the central region, and to live with my grandma. So I used to go fishing, farming, you know. So every time I appear on TV3, the people in Agona Konyako, they're always happy because they can identify someone that grew up in the area with them, you know. So I used to attend the Methodist church. I was in the band, Methodist band. So fast forward, when I was 8, my grandma, who was a nurse, was transferred to Nsawam. So I lived with her in Nsawam, specifically at Wejiri. I attended Nanos Ajan Primary School. I was in the afternoon shift. In class 3.
Okay.
Yes. You know, they had this morning afternoon shift. So I was in the afternoon shift. So in the morning, I would go to the market to go and sell salon mangoes, the big mangoes, because we had a mango tree in the house. And so grandma would pluck, and then I would go and sell to raise money to pay my fees. So, you know, right after that, fast forward, on the 19th of August, 1994, they organized this district examinations. Normally, the member of parliament, I don't think they still do it. The MP at the time would do it every year for each district in the constituency. And then the first top four students in the primary school would get a scholarship or education support by God's grace. I was the 4th in my district.
You almost missed the opportunity.
Yeah. So I got the opportunity to now come to Achimota Primary School. Bear in mind, Achimota Primary School in Accra was like the primary side of Achimota Senior High or Achimota Secondary School then. So when I got that scholarship, came to Accra, that's when my father showed up. He was, I say was because he's late. He was a police officer. So then he stepped in, started paying my fees and everything, and trying to give me a good life. So that's when my life started turning around. So I started speaking good English because I got myself involved. Like I was in the midst of rich kids. I remember my first day at school, in class 4, when I came to Achimota. When I opened my mouth to speak, they started laughing because my English was upside down. You know, those brofana account, Charlie. Yeah, no. It was crazy. And so they were just laughing around. And then in the evening, it was a Sunday. That's when I got to the school. And with Achimota, the primary, they have a boarding house. JSS had a boarding house. So I went to the boarding house in class 4 because my father was a police officer. He didn't really have time. My mother as well was trying to pick up her life because, you know, they separated when she was quite young. But my father was a bit older, you know. So my father leaving me in the boarding house was understandable. That Sunday evening, they served tea and bread. And someone went to the dining hall to take my food and brought it to the dormitory. And he put it on the bed. You know, there's double-decker iron beds. He put it on top of it. So my fresh mattress, fresh bed sheet, by the time I came, the tea had poured on the bed.
Oh.
And so that night, my first night in Achimota, I slept on the floor, on a blanket.
Wow.
Yes, because my bed was wet with tea. For 3 days, I was sleeping on that blanket. Until that was an experience I would never forget. And to top it all up, there was this other boy called Akrofi. So my middle name is Nene Akrofi, right? But this gentleman or this boy had He was Jonathan Akrofi, something. So when my father brought some provisions for me 4 days after I got to school, he left it with the security saying, give this to Akrofi. Right? You know what's happening.
I know what happened.
So this Akrofi, this security man see this Akrofi going around, and he calls the Akrofi. Akrofi, your father has brought you provisions. And the boy went to take it. Knowing that it is not his, he enjoyed it well.
Wow.
So after 2 weeks of dumping me in the school, I wasn't hearing from my father. Then he came back after 2 weeks and I asked him, how did you just come and say, but I brought you provisions exactly 4 days after I dropped you off. And I said, me? Yes. So we traced the security man. He said, you said I should give it to Akrofi. I gave it to Akrofi.
No, to be fair, Akrofi got it.
And they went to call the Akrofi. Apparently, my father even added a watch. The watch had Superman in there. I remember this watch. It had some Superman image. You know the Superman cartoons? Mm-hmm. Akrofi was wearing the watch. And when they called him, they brought him out. And then he came. He was wearing the watch so happily. Then my father said, but why are you wearing my son's watch? He said, the security man gave it to me. He said, my father came to. So then he took off the watch for me. When I went, the only thing that was left, those cube sugar, that half was gone. The shito almost finished. Wow. Gari almost finished. They brought 6 sardines. He had eaten 5, 1 left. I took my stuff in sorrow and then I left. Those experiences play back and it defines my growing up. When I decided to tell my father what I wanted to be, and I mentioned journalism, he was like, nope, it's not part of his future plan for me. Why? Because as a police officer, he grew up at the time when journalists were being killed, abducted for writing stories. So the likes of Kwesi Pratt, Kweku Bakon, our seniors and veterans in this field had to suffer, being imprisoned. Some journalists were abducted for writing stories. So it was that kind of image that was in his mind about journalism. And no parent would want his or her child to get into a profession that could expose him or her to risks, isn't it?
Exactly.
So he said, look, I would rather you do accounting, business, just become an accountant, stay in an office, you don't have any issues with anybody. So when I was choosing my courses for secondary school, he made me choose business. That's how come I ended up in Accra Academy. So instead of, normally when you go to Achimota Primary JHS, the high chance of you going to the secondary school is there because you already have the foundation. But Achimota at the time wasn't offering a business course. So I had to go to Accra Academy, which was one of the top business secondary schools. Still is. Bleo. Still is. So I went to Accra Academy, studied business, and then afterwards to the University of Ghana. That's where the second part of my answer comes in. Okay. That journalism found me. Wow. Eventually. So it's level 300, first semester, when we were having the JCR elections. And one of the candidates decided to have me do publicity for him. So I was going around the halls, in the various rooms, trying to get people's views about what they think about candidates. So when I recorded the thing on a Walkman, a Walkman? Yeah, Walkman with cassette, mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I sent it to Radio Universe for them to have it played. So there was a gentleman there, his name is Elvis Ajete. He was a news editor then. Elvis listened to the thing and was like, who is that? He says, is this gentleman who, I was doing a course not related to communications or journalism or anything related. So he said they should call me the next day. I went there and he was like, I listened to you. I want to hear you speak. Because there are some people who fake the voice, right, to sound a certain way. So I recorded something and I was like, okay, you know what? what's your schedule like? I gave him my schedule, and he said, I want you to come in and start something.
Wow.
Right? So that's why, journalism for me is a calling, because I believe that really, even though my father wanted something else, God just had me called to do this, and to do this the best way possible. So that's been the journey for the past 17 years. Work with Choice FM, Sky TV, then also GNTV. Then I did Business Television Africa. We had establishments in Liberia and Ghana, and TV3.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for these revealing information. Now, many of you may know Alfred for his time with Media General, but as you heard him say, he's had past experiences with other media organizations. We'll go for a short break, and once we are back, we'll delve more into the life of the legend in media. Alfred Ocansey will be back. You all come back from the break, and just before we left, we were having an interesting and revealing high school rundown from Alfred. Now we are zooming straight into his professional career. And so, Alfred, do you remember your very first story, and tell me how the experience was?
All right, so thank you. Prior to joining TV3, I had done some 7 years of journalism, 4.5 of it being radio, 2.5 television with Sky TV, which eventually became GNTV. But my first report on TV3 was an interview that the former President John Agyekum Kufuor had with Al Jazeera, and I was supposed to transcribe it and then interview other governance experts, because the question was about whether or not Ghana's presidential term limit should be extended or reviewed. Because as we do know, the Constitution places a 2-term limit on presidents or sitting presidents. And so there are others who thought that, look, this 2-term limit is too short. There's no president who can do anything meaningful with 8 years. But even with the 8 years, you have to, in your first year, you are forming your cabinet, you are forming your government. In the last year, you are thinking about campaigning. So you technically have just 2 years to govern well. So this conversation about increasing the number of years. So I remember doing an interview with Professor Bafo Ajimendua, and then also Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh to have their thoughts on it. It was quite an eye-opener, because my days at Sky TV, because I was a news editor there, I was a lot more behind the desk, editing stories than going out, So it was a good field experience for me. So that was the first report that I did for TV3. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm happy you mentioned Sky TV, because a bird whispered to me that your career was nearly truncated at a point due to an accident. Could you shed more light on that?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So this was on the 10th of January 2012. Sky TV offices, or the studios, was at the time at Belengbe, and they had not constructed the footbridges on the N1 highway at the time, but they had opened it partially for traffic. Normally I would get to the office at 6 a.m. I was using the public transport then. So I alighted at the other side, because the bus I was in was then heading towards La Paz. So I alighted by the side of the road. I crossed to the other side. I was actually walking on the shoulders of the road. And that was around 5:40 a.m. that particular day, on the 10th of January 2012. And from nowhere, this car climbed the pavement, and I only heard, "Bra, bra, bra, shewechi." So the moment I turned, I saw this car that was approaching. I dived, but unfortunately, it had my foot caught under the tire of the car. It was a saloon car. The driver just drove off, didn't stop. It was the Zoom Lion women who sweep the streets at dawn who saved my life, because if they hadn't shouted for me to turn to see this car, I would have been run over by the car. And that accident, when I woke up, like got out of consciousness, my foot had been broken off my leg. So you see, the ankle bone holds the foot to the leg. The ankle bone had broken into two. Not fracture, broken. And my leg, in fact, my foot was just hanging on my leg with the flesh on it. It took the Zoom Lion women to help me out. They put me in their tricycle that they put the rubbish or the refuse in. They put me in the refuse, and they rode, one of them rode all the way down to Perez, Janasari's church, the traffic light there. That was where a taxi driver pulled over. They put me in the taxi and brought me to 37. And long story short, I had a surgery, and I was on crutches for 5 months, 2 weeks. So as I speak, I still have metals in my foot. I don't know if your cameras can capture that, but I have metals for the past 12, 13 years. So my foot is held to my leg by 2 metals because the ankle bone broke. So until the bone grows back into the socket, I can't have the metals removed. So I don't play football for long. I don't drive very long distances because, when you're driving, you have to use your right leg to accelerate, to brake, and so on. So yeah, I'm a walking Terminator. I have a few metals in my body. Yeah, it's uncomfortable sometimes because when we get into the cold season like this, the rainy season, the pain is quite excruciating sometimes because of the weather impact. Yeah.
I understand that even when you were going through this difficult time, when you were even using crutches, you were still going to work at that point. Would you describe yourself as a workaholic? I
think I'd rather say I'm passionate about this. That's why I say it's not for me a profession, it's a calling. When you're passionate about something, it consumes you so much, and you refuse to even be slowed down by some of the setbacks of life. So I would say it is the passion that I have for this job that got me up on my feet, even when I was on crutches.
Great, thank you. Yeah. Now, I'm aware that you said the Legon robbery story you covered some years ago was more or less your breakthrough. How did you come across that story? So, I describe that as a breakthrough because, it's about seizing the moment. You never plan to cover a breaking news. No. The breaking news happens and then you seize the moment. It is the ability to seize the moment that defines any breakthrough for anybody in any career, not just journalism. But in life, if you want to be noticed or have that breakthrough, you need to learn to identify the moment, seize the moment. You can be at the right place at the right time, but if you don't seize the moment, you'll miss it. So for me, it was an evening. It's just normal learning for an exam. So I was on my way to my hostel, which was outside at the time. They hadn't built these new hostels. So I was living in a place around the Atomic Roundabout area. So I was using the athletic oval on Legon campus. And I saw 2 gentlemen running. And within that area, I could see 2 students as well
running and shouting. I could hear some shouts. So at the time, I mean, you didn't have too many smartphones to capture. I mean, I was using the Nokia. You see that small Nokia that, you know, when you get a call, it will be, the lights will be changing red, gold, green. I don't know the brand. It's just, so I had to literally follow them because I couldn't capture them. I had to follow them. Thankfully, I had the recorder with the cassette on me. So when I was running, I pressed the record. So it captured my movements, my running, and then I was able to I passed behind Akrofi Hall, so I crossed the guys. That is the two students who were being robbed or being chased by the robbers on campus. And they were pointing, telling me, look, they're chasing us. They want to steal from us. At the time, campus had recorded about 3 robberies on campus. So while they were talking to me, my recorder was on. So I captured everything like real time. It wasn't like me standing and interviewing them. No. It was me capturing the moment as it unfolded. And so when the robbers got a bit closer, because they were shouting, and you know, at the time, because we're preparing for exams, a number of us, I mean, the students, were either at the BAM library or some of the lecture halls. So that place was really quiet. You know, so with any little sound, or if you shout just a bit, you will be heard. So when we're able to run to the main gate, and then they stopped chasing us. When I quickly then went in there, because we had to treat it as a breaking news. Went into the studio. When I started, yes, Radio Invest Campus Radio is located just at the entrance of Legon. So when I went in there, I normally what we call the dubbing, or you cut the sound. So I reversed or rewinded the tape. And when I was playing it, then I realized I had captured the voice of one of the robbers who was shouting in Hausa language. And eventually I got to know that it meant he was telling the other guy they should use the back because they can cross us from there. Right. So I had it all on tape, played it with the story. The Vice Chancellor requested for it.
Wow.
We analyzed it, you know, and that was in my final year actually. Then, so the Vice Chancellor, you know, requested for me to meet him. And yeah, I was giving a certificate.
Wow.
To honor, you know, that work. And that's why I'm saying it wasn't planned for, but it was seizing the moment as it came. Great. And as a result of that, you know, Adisa Lansa, who was our news editor then, when she got a job as the news editor for Choice FM, she had already made up her mind to recruit me when I'm done with school. So that's how come I landed my first job.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, Alfred, your investigative piece on street children earned you a GJA award and a scholarship, but I'm interested in knowing what led you to that story. Okay,
so that's also part of the seizing the moment bit. Look, I can't say this enough, and that is to students, to upcoming journalists, to be very aware of your environment. Your job is dependent on your self-awareness and your sensitivity. So as you're walking, you must be very nosy for news. Be inquisitive for news, not inquisitive about other people's business, right? That's what defines your work. So back to this one as well, that was a major breakthrough for me here at TV3. This was in 2018, November 2018. I had closed from work around almost 10:30 p.m. thereabout. And I got to the Opebia traffic light. Traffic light turned red. Then, you know these kids who come to clean your windscreen when there's... So this boy approached me, and when he tried doing that, and at the time I had been told that the liquid they use could mess up your windscreen. So I sprinkled water on my screen, and he stepped back. Then he looked at me, because at the time I was driving a branded car, TV3 branded. Then he looked at me and he said, "Mr. Alfred." So I was shocked. I was like, this is a child on the street mentioning my name. So when it turned green, I pulled over at the Opebia traffic light, that Silver Star Towers. And I called him. Then I asked him what his name was. He says his name is Hakeem. And I asked how he got to know my name. He says every 7 o'clock, at the time I was reading the News 360. So that's how I started television on TV3. Started reading the news before I was giving my programs, Ghana Tonight and Key Point. So he said every 7 o'clock he would go to the 37 lorry station where some of the shops had TV sets. He will sit there to watch the news. That's how come he got to know me. Then I was like, wow. Then I took interest in him. So out of guilt, because I didn't allow him to clean I gave him 10 CDs then.
Okay.
Then the next day, when I got there, I looked out for him. He saw my car, he approached. So I was prepared. So I gave him 50 CDs. Okay. Then I engaged him further to find out which school he was in and so on. And he was, now his school has been demolished. The Airport Basic School. They've demolished the school, where the DVLA, was. Yeah, they've done some demolitions there. A week later, I was looking for Hakeem. I couldn't find him. And I asked about him. They said, oh, he's gone to China. I said, how come? Who would take Hakeem to China within this short period of 1 week? Apparently, there was an essay competition that he took part in. There was an NGO that was paying his fees at the Airport Basic School. So he would go to school during the day, and then in the evening he would come and beg on the streets. So he took part in this essay competition and he won. And as part of the prize money or the prize package for the winner, was supposed to be taken to China. So Stanbic Bank was one of the sponsors, and they took Hakeem to China for 2 weeks. Okay. So I had taken my mind off Hakeem. I thought, oh well, if he's gone to China, then it means it's something good for him. I was driving on the Spintex Road. I went under the bridge, that underbridge that connects East Legon to the Spintex Road. Then there was Hakeem.
Was he after 2 weeks?
After 2 weeks, together with this same group of boys, and they were just walking aimlessly, looking for a car to clean. And then I pulled over. I called him. I'm like, Hakeem, I've been looking for you. He says, well, yes, I went to China. I'm like, are you serious? He says, yes. This is what happened. I got there. Then he started mentioning the names of the cities he visited, the companies he visited. It went on and on. He said he wants to be an aeronautic engineer, so they took him to some of these places where he can get the practical experience of what happens. I'm like, okay, why are you back on the street? He says, well, after they came back, that's it. He didn't have anywhere to go because he's been on the streets all the while, So then I decided to do the story of how I met him, he going to China, coming back and going on back on the streets, just to appeal. My mindset of that story was not to be known or anything. My focus was to get help for Hakeem. So when we did the story, the first day it was aired, it was a Sunday evening, thousands of calls, like appeals online. To cut a long story short, that story went viral. In fact, there were people outside of the country who wanted to come and adopt him. People came here donating money and stuff. We took all of that and gave it to him. Then Stanbic Bank called me and said, look, this story you've done, you've caused us a lot of trouble. Because people are then saying, but why Stanbic Bank? If you sponsored the guy to China, why do you then bring him back and leave him on the streets? So you know what, Alfred, for all the trouble you've caused us, we're going to set up a fund for you to do stories about children on the streets. But for Hakeem, we're giving him $6 million worth of scholarship to fund his education from class 5 to the university. Wow. And guess what? That was not the only one. When Hakeem was brought in for a meeting, they asked him, does he have friends? He said, yes, he had 2 guys, Ephraim and Peter. he said, well, we have another package for Ephraim and Peter. They were also adopted and sent to an international school. Hakim was sent to the Herman Minor SOS International School in Tema, that top school where they paid dollars. And guess what? He graduated last year as one of the top 5 students. He graduated with Otumfuo's daughter, by the way. And then so I asked him, who's your favorite friend? He said, so that's Otumfuo's daughter is my girlfriend. You can imagine that. But Hakim now has gotten offers from universities in the UK, in Finland, and then I think in Australia. So he's preparing to choose one of them and go fully sponsored scholarship, 100%. Tuition, accommodation, all together.
How does that make you feel, knowing that your work is having such impact?
Fulfilled. I say to myself that if I have to leave this job today, the fact that I used, or God used me through journalism to touch one life is all I needed. That I can reference today and know that one life has been touched. Hakim has developed a number of apps. He developed an app for his school, SOS, for their exams timetable. And they still use it. And that's one of he got 4 awards as well in the school. Ephraim graduated this year as well. Man, a good student as well. And for the scholarships and the awards as a result of this story, for me, it came as an add-on. I didn't really expect it, but, the U.S. Embassy saw the story, and then I was written to. I applied for the Mandela Fellowship, and a fully sponsored scholarship to the United States. And while I was studying at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, they were still paying me as a student. So the U.S. Embassy, the U.S. government did well, and I want to thank the U.S. government for this one. They were paying, I was not the only one. There are other fellows in that fellowship. They were giving us $2,000 every month. And then they were feeding us breakfast and lunch. They said we should use that $2,000 for supper. And you can imagine, we had Nigerians, Ghanaians, Kenyans. You want us to use $2,000 to buy food? We kept the money.
Of course.
For all the months that we were there. So we came back rich. You know what we're doing? When we go to the... So they had this like a dining hall, which is not like a typical dining hall, Okay. The kind of food that they serve, and the setting in the dining hall was like a KFC or some restaurant here. You go there, you serve yourself buffet. So what we're doing, the Nigerians, they taught me the bag, our school bags, they had a rubber bag in there. So we go, they load the food. They come and store it in the fridge for the evening. So you keep your money.
Alfred, how long ago was this?
This was in 2019. Yeah, so this was a postgraduate program I went to do. So you keep your food, and then you use it in the evening. Our hairs became so bushy, was grown bushy. We went to the barbering shop to go and ask how much a barber would cost, and they said $50 for a hair shave.
Let me guess,
I did the conversion to cedis. I realized this thing for just one shave. So we contributed $5. And guess what? The hair shaving machine over there, it was just $25. How then do you charge me $50? So we went to buy the machine and we shaved our hairs ourselves. All we needed was, just to save some money. But we came back by God's grace, we came with a lot of money, rich, But that's what the U.S. government did for us. But that, as I say, it wasn't the main focus of the story that I did. It was just to help this young boy. I'm happy that today he's a teenager who is focused, and he wants to also help society. So his idea is to develop an app, sell it, and use the proceeds to help other Hakims on the streets. Just a good one.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Alfred, you know how passionate you are when it comes to national issues. Do you think the conversations around national issues in the media get the desired outcome?
Well, yes and no. Some don't, others do. So, for instance, I can say for sure that the conversations about illegal mining, in my view, the media started this campaign, and then the politicians launched on it. We got some success, and we are still going to get success because, you see, no matter how powerful any civil society organization's campaign is, they need the media to drive it, right? So, yeah, I mean, in some instances, it becomes just a talk shop, talk. The next 2 weeks, if something big comes up, we move on to the next big headline. But I believe that one topic that I think the media has sustained the steam on very effectively is Galamsey. And I think that the media will play a critical role in whether or not this fight is won. And I know we'll win it with the media's focus. Yeah.
I'm happy you brought up the issue of Galamsey. So I know that during an interview with the NAT Secretary, Thomas Musa Tanko, you got, I don't know if passionate is the word. So you got quite emotional on the set. I'm interested in knowing what sparked that kind of emotion.
I think it was a sense of brokenness and that reality check. You know, when he tells you about what they experience on the ground, these are teachers. And you see, if you want to understand the real impact of illegal mining, speak to the people on the ground. That's why when I'm doing documentaries and interviews, I like to speak to people who are living the experience on a daily basis. So when I spent 3 days in the Tiwa forest doing a documentary on Galamsey. And I interviewed some of the illegal miners, like one-on-one. And they agreed to speak to me on camera. And they told me that I should look at them. Can they afford the excavators and the chamfan machines? They don't have that kind of money, even though they make 2,000 Ghana cedis every day. So they told me that, yeah, master. I asked him, my director, why? So, your director, Accra. Off camera, he mentioned the name of the person. It's a politician, right? So the fight against illegal mining, even though it's okay to arrest those young people in the pit, but we must also identify the financiers, those who are buying the excavators.
In the fight against Galamsey last week, we lost our gallant soldiers. What's your take on that?
For me, I had a personal connection with a number of them. Peter Anala, the pilot, I met twice. I wouldn't say I know him personally, but with the kind of personality that I encountered, he knows his stuff. He's a professional, you know. But the two people that I had direct, long-standing relationship with is the late Dr. Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed. I started interviewing him as far back as 2008 when I was on Choice FM. He used to come on the morning show. I was hosting the morning show on Choice FM. He used to come on the show with the former Defense Minister, Dominic Nitiwo, who actually was the youngest member of Parliament then. He entered Parliament when he was 26 years old. Nitiwo, he was a Bimbala member of Parliament. He is still the Bimbala MP. And so he used to come on the show with him. He's been passionate since. And the way you see him speak on television, the same way. So we were actually planning for him to appear on Key Point. That's the Saturday morning show that I host. This past Saturday, right? And then the Wednesday before the Saturday, this happens. And I have my chat with him the Tuesday before the Wednesday when he was leaving, because they were going to a program that was going to launch an initiative to fight Galamsey. So the idea was to have a conversation on that initiative as to how potent it would be in the fight against Galamsey. Then this happened. So for me, we can't turn back the hands of time, but we can make their death count by ensuring that they didn't die in vain, by putting measures in place to deal with illegal mining, and also, at least in honor of your death or in the memory of your death, ensure that we put structures in place to sustain the gains of illegal mining. It's not that because of the death we're moving, we declare state of emergency, we kill people. Then after some time we forget and then we go back to bed. That shouldn't be the case.
Great. Now, Alfred, in your 17 years working in the media space, have you ever faced threats or political pressure to censor a story?
No. I mean, that pressure, if I've ever faced it, doesn't come in from internal sources, as in my bosses or my editors. No. You would rather face that kind of political pressure from external sources who feel like, why are you doing this story a certain way? Why don't you do it this way? Why are you looking at this angle? Why don't you look at that angle?
How do you handle those?
No. I mean, there's editorial independence in our line of work. Not even our bosses or whoever can tell us what to do if we are convinced that what we are doing is the truth and we can actually stand for it and defend it anywhere. The name of the game in journalism is accuracy. Accuracy. We don't get it right all the time. We will make mistakes, but it doesn't change the fact that we have to check, recheck, check again to make sure we get it right. So, yeah.
Alfred, with Ahmed Hussein Swale's killing, would you say your father was right in talking you out of journalism?
Well, no. I disagreed with him till he died. May his soul rest in perfect peace. He didn't get to see me doing what I'm doing today. I know in 2011, I'm sure he would have been happy, I suppose, with the kind of person that I am today and who I want to be in the years ahead. But in as much as Ahmed Swale's murder is as unfortunate as it is, I wouldn't say that, that's a justification for him talking me out. We all face all sorts of challenges and risks in our line of duty. Yeah. I have been attacked 3 times. My tire has been shot into.
Your tire?
Yeah, my car tire. I was driving around the airport traffic light. It was 3 days after this past election. Yeah. Somebody shot in my tire or into my tire.
Did that scare you?
Yeah, of course. I just pulled over, and fortunately I had a few police friends who are at the airport police station, so I called them and they came, So, yeah, the matter was investigated. I was asked to be cautious. So we are exposed to all sorts of dangers, Yeah.
Now, Alfred, when all is said and done, how would you want to be remembered?
I'd want to be remembered as a journalist who reflected the views, concerns, and opinions of society and pursued the greater good for the society and for Ghanaians, and then also left a lasting impact in the lives of people.
Thank you very much for talking to us. Like I said earlier, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. And this is where we end this episode of Impact Stories on AAU TV. Get interactive with us on our social media handles at AAU, on Facebook, YouTube, and other platforms. My name is Maame Ekua Otuokua Nyame, and it's a wrap.